How is it going, Diablo fans? So as promised, I wanted to make one more build guide, and here it is. It is the Blizzard build guide, and I kind of enjoy playing this build. Again, like, I don't enjoy playing the Bloodseekers, and they still kill me all the time. Doesn't have to do anything with Blizzard or not, just has to do with stupid one-shot mechanics. But yeah, I enjoyed this Blizzard build a lot, and it's a pretty simple build. It's straightforward to play. You don't really have like huge gear requirements. You can pretty much play whatever gear you want, and I guess this is like a great baseline build if you want to play like Nightmare Dungeons or like lower level AoZ, like, you know, up to like tier 9 or something like that. At tier 10 it already gets like difficult, and unless you have like tier 50 glyph. So you can still play this build. It feels good. It has great crowd control. There's a lot of options how you can, you know, kind of change the build, and I tweaked it to the way that it also has like great mana sustain, which is usually the problem with Blizzard. So since this is my last build guide for the season, I want to thank you for all your support. Like, it has been an amazing time. I got like so many views on my guides. Like, it's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I will continue supporting when the next season 3 starts, or probably like, you know, a couple of days before season 3 starts. I will continue coverage, but I'm done for this season. There's just too many bugs in this game, and I just don't enjoy the gameplay of AoZ at all, and that's why this is the last build guide I'm going to bring you guys for this season. And as always, you will find all the links to the specific sections of this guide, as well as to the planner, and also the links to all my other build guides in the description down below. So now let's just do like the quick rundown how this build works, and after that we're going to go into the detailed guide. So this build is in general pretty simple. Blizzard itself doesn't do any damage at all, so it doesn't make sense to put any skill points in it, but there's aspects which can spawn ice spikes during Blizzard. And those are the Glacial aspect and the aspect of the Frozen Tundra, and these two are spawning the ice spikes, which do quite a bit of damage, and they have a great area of effect. So the goal of this build is you stack as many blizzards as possible. They're gonna freeze everything. You're gonna have huge damage modifiers to frozen enemies, and there's going to be like a lot of ice spikes spawning inside the blizzard, which are doing the actual damage to the mobs. That's the simple explanation how the damage works in this build, and I don't even want to explain it any further. Then also, keep in mind, if you play Blizzard, you're gonna be very, very mana hungry, and there's kind of a delayed damage curve. Like, you do the first Blizzard, you don't do any damage at all. You do the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and whatever. Like, the more Blizzards you stack on top of each other, the more damage is like scaling up, and your mana regeneration kicks in kind of delayed. Like, your mana regeneration is basically lucky hit based if you don't play Chain Lightning Enchantment like I do. And that actually starts like after you stack like a couple of blizzards, and if the mobs inside actually die too fast, you're gonna get out of mana. So to fix this blizzard mana issue, we just add in the Chain Lightning enchantment together with the recharging aspect and the static surge legendary node. So this gives us enough mana sustain to stay on top of our mana pool, together with the mana cost reduction rolls on our amulet and our boots, and the resource generation rolls on our rings. We have absolutely no problem keeping our mana up, even with this high attack speed and this spamming style of blizzards. Then, as already said, we are playing Andariels in this build, and if you have a good amulet with the armor roll, you can also play Temerity. So if you play Andariels and Temerity in this, you're gonna have like 10 to 12k barrier up all the time, because the Life Leech from the Andariels will actually generate like the barrier for the Temerity. And as our Blizzard is continuously doing like damage, even if the packs, we don't even see the packs, right? We can put a Blizzard on a pack and then just walk away, and the Blizzard will still damage it. And if we have a lot of blizzards stacked, like for example in the Bloodseeker fights you are seeing right now, we can definitely have a lot of Life Leech, and we can sustain by just spamming blizzards and taking advantage of the Life Leech of the Andariels. You don't have to play it. You can also play a regular Helm. You can also play Shaco if you want. Andariels just feels like great with this, because since the skill points to Blizzard do not really matter, we cannot really benefit of Shaco, because Shaco will give us 4 additional skill points, and these are pretty much going to be wasted. And that's pretty much already everything I have to say about this build. Like, it's a pretty simple build. You just spam blizzards, regenerate mana, and see stuff die. It's a bunch of Frozen Synergy. I'm not even going to explain how the Frozen Synergy works. Just check out the planner link in the description down below. You will see the Paragon Board has like damage to crowd controlled, and we have like Frozen Synergy in our Paragon Board. So this is like a baseline cold build. We stack all pretty much damage modificators for cold damage. We freeze everything. It's very defensive, so it's just a great baseline build to play. Now let's just go into the detailed guide, and as always we will start with the skill tree. we put 2 points into Firebolt for the Firebolt enchantment. Then we put 3 points into Devastation just for some extra mana pool. We don't need Elemental Dominance since Blizzard doesn't do any damage and it's not going to affect the Ice Spike's damage, so we don't need this. So we just put 3 points into Devastation for the extra mana pool. 1 point into Chain Lightning. This is part of our mana regeneration strategy. We run the Chain Lightning enchantment. And 3 points into Potent Warding just to cap our resistances because we're not fully capped from Paragon in this build. Then we put 1 point into Elemental Attunement to reset our defensive skills and 3 points into Glass Cannon. We have a +3 defensive amulet in this case, so we don't like choose any points into our defensive. You can also do this with Shaco, like there's a lot of different variants you can play with this build. If you don't have any defensive skill modifiers, you will have to play around with it a little bit, probably like take out the devastation points and put them into the defensive skills. Then we put 3 points into Precision Magic, 1 point into Align the Elements, 3 points into Mana Shield, 3 points into Protection, so we want to be a little bit more defensive. 1 point into Lightning Spare. Lightning Spare is one of our applicators for the Firebolt enchantment, because remember, Blizzard itself won't apply Firebolt enchantment, so we need other spells to do that for us, and Lightning Spare is one of those. Then we put 2 points into Icy Veil, 3 points into Cold Front, and 3 points into Snap Freeze. These really help with having Blizzard freeze stuff a little bit faster. You definitely want to have the Cold Front. Snap Freeze is kind of optional. If you feel like you don't need it, you can spec out of it and redistribute those points. Then 1 point into Blizzard, 1 point into Enhanced Blizzard, and 1 point into Mage's Blizzard. Blizzard itself doesn't do any damage basically, so we just put 1 point here. 1 point into Inner Flames and 3 points into Devouring Blaze. And if you have a Devouring Blaze amulet, it's nice to have a +3 on it. You can also have a +3 Hoarfrost amulet. Those are like pretty similar. I don't have any of those, so that's like not so great. But yeah, you should either have +3 Devouring Blaze or +3 Hoarfrost on your amulet. Then we put 3 points into all of these cold passives, right? These just give us a lot of damage bonus, and the Frigid Breeze gives us a lot of mana regeneration. I have a +3 Icy Touch on my amulet, so that's not very great. So again, you want to have Hoarfrost or Devouring Blaze on your amulet. Then you can play either way. You can either play Deep Freeze all the way up to Supreme Deep Freeze, or you can play Inferno and Prime Inferno. It's like up to you. Deep Freeze is a little bit better. It's a little bit more defensive. It helps you get Disobedience stacks up. If you, for example, fall off Disobedience stacks and the Bloodseekers spawn, you can use Deep Freeze to get your stacks up and running and reset your cooldowns. While Inferno is useful to pull the Bloodseekers to the same spot, it's also useful to get a little bit of distance to mobs, and it also applies direct burning. So it's kind of a personal preference. Both work just fine. Then we put 1 point into Cold Currents and 3 points into Electrocutions. Again, we're running Chain Lightning enchantment and also Lightning Spare and also Teleport, so this helps us a little bit with damage mitigation. And then we play Shatter. If you struggle with mana and you're running like lower tiers, like, you know, maybe tier 5 till tier 7 or even tier 8, maybe even tier 9, like Shatter does good damage, but you don't need it. So if you struggle with mana, you can definitely also go for Avalanche. For the skills and enchantment, as already said, you can either do Inferno or you can do Deep Freeze. It's really kinda up to you. Inferno is a little bit more offensive, Deep Freeze is a little bit more defensive. Then we use Lightning Spare. It just helps us applying the Firebolt enchantment because Blizzard itself doesn't apply the Firebolt enchantment, so that's why we choose Lightning Spare here. Teleport, just to jump around. Flame Shield, again, stay alive is probably a good thing to do, right? Blizzard is our main damage skill. It doesn't do damage itself, so the damage comes from the ice spikes, which are spawned by the Blizzard, but we will get to that later when we explain the aspects. And then we use Ice Armor for a little bit extra defensiveness, and then Firebolt enchantment. This enables our burning synergy mainly, so we have Devouring Blaze, and we have a little bit of burning synergy in Paragon Board. This gets applied by the Chain Lightning enchantment, by Lightning Spare, by Teleport, by Flame Shield, by Inferno. It just doesn't get applied by Blizzard, basically, which is your main spell. And then we use Chain Lightning Enchantment. This is to fix our mana, so we use the Static Surge Legendary Node, as well as the Recharging Aspect, because if you have a high attack speed, it's very hard to stay up on mana with Blizzard, unless you are like have really big mob packs you can attack all the time, then it's usually no problem. But if the packs get smaller, or you have Bloodseekers, which it does 3, then you're having problems with staying up with your mana. You could use T-Ball's Will, but I don't really enjoy playing that item at all. So this is like pretty much like a more like a baseline build. So if you like play it with Chain Lightning Enchantment and the mana regeneration, you're pretty much going to have mana all the time, and you can just like, you know, right click and put Blizzard everywhere without having to think about, do I cast this Blizzard or will I go out of mana? And then, you know, do I have to dash to like refill with T-Balls and anything? So that's why I just choose this Chain Lightning Enchantment in this build here. For legendary aspects and unique items, we have like quite some options we can play here, and I'm gonna just go through the options we have here real quick. So first of all, for your helmet, you can either go Andariel's, you can go Shaco, or you can just go like a regular helm with, you know, cooldown reduction and all that stuff. We're gonna get to that later in the item and stat priorities. So if you play Andariel's, like Blizzard, like if you cast like 10 or 15 Blizzard on like a high hit point pack of mobs, like you get a lot of Life Leech out of Andariels because they like keep hitting, and it's like a constant stream of hits even while you're moving. So the Life Leech of Andariels really keeps you alive. And you don't really need, like, if you play Shaco, you know, yeah, you get like some extra life, some extra damage reduction, some extra resource generation, some extra stats. It's all nice, but the +4 skills basically do nothing in this build because Blizzard damage doesn't matter at all, and it's not gonna buff your Ice Spikes damage. So that's why you don't really have to play Shaco even if you have it. It's nice if you can play Andariels. As well, if you have an amulet with armor roll, unfortunately I don't have one, but if you have one, you can also play Temerity on top of it. I mean, if you have a good Temerity, like as you can see, mine has like a min life roll, which is like pretty bad. But if you have a good Temerity, like with a high effect, like the 80% I have here, and together with Andariel's, you get like a crazy high barrier on top of it, because the Andariel's regeneration works together with the Temerity, and Temerity gives you 80% of max life barrier. So if you have like, you know, 14k life, you get like what, like 11k life barrier on top of your life pool, and that makes you like very, very tanky. The downside is Temerity has no total armor, so you really need like a roll on your amulet, and also you will have to place Disobedience on your amulet. Just saying, because this is like an additional option. So let's go through the other items. AoZ Boots, pretty basic stuff. Try to get for a high crit modificator with high movement speed here. Then we use Tarasha's Ring. If you have Andariel's, you have like 4 stacks. If you don't have Andariel's, you have 3 stacks, but still, it's a very nice ring. And in this build, we don't care about cooldown reduction, right? We care about lucky hit chance, but mostly we care about resource generation. So resource generation is like really the most important stat in this build. So that's why I try to get the Tarashas with like the highest damage stat and the highest resource generation here. Then for our offensive aspects, we use the aspect of the Frozen Tundra. This gives our Ice Spikes more explosion radius, and if you play Deep Freeze, it also does quite a bit of damage when using Deep Freeze. Then we play the Glacial aspect, and you want to have this on your two-handed stuff, and you want to have it as high rolled as possible. So the strongest one would be 4.8 to 6k, like that's the strongest roll, and you really want to have like a very, very high roll on Glacial aspect here. If you have like a shitty Glacial aspect, which does like, like 2,500 damage or whatever, like don't even play this build, it's gonna be terrible. You want to have a good Glacial aspect. Then we play the Swell aspect on our amulet. Again, this is like the highest damage modificator we can get for this build. And furthermore, we play the Recharging aspect to go together with our Chain Lightning enchantment. This gives us a lot of additional mana regeneration. And then we just have left like our defensive aspects. That's going to be, first of all, our Exploiters aspect. You can go defensive here also if you want. Like if you're playing Nightmare Dungeons, you're not gonna need this. This is more for like AoZ. If the Bloodseekers get unstoppable, you get like nice extra damage. But you could also go a defensive aspect, like the Snow Veiled aspect for additional armor, the Snow Guards aspect for additional damage reduction, or also the Ever Living aspect for more damage reduction. And then we have Disobedience on our pants here. Again, if you have an amulet with total armor and you want to play Temerity, or if you like want to play T-Balls, for example, you can also play T-Balls if you want, if you like that playstyle. Then you really need like to have a total armor roll on your amulet, and you also want to have Disobedience on your amulet. The flip side is you're gonna lose damage because you're gonna miss one more damage aspect. So I probably would not recommend doing this. For the item and stat priority, you can either have Andariel's or Shaco, or you can have like a regular helmet with, well, in this build you don't really need cooldown reduction, but you might as well pick it up because there's like pretty much nothing else you want to have on your helmet. So if you don't have Shaco, you want to have maximum life, resource generation, maximum mana, and either cooldown reduction or main stat. Like, it pretty much doesn't matter so much. And you want to play Ever Living or Snow Veiled aspect then. For your armor, you want to have like maximum defenses, right? 2 damage reduction stats, max life, and total armor. Same goes for your pants, 2 damage reduction stats, max life, and armor. For your gloves, you want to have attack speed, critical strike chance, like a hit chance, and you want to have like primary resource restore. If you feel like you don't need it, you can also put main stat on here. For your boots, again, ASOS, high crit roll, high movement speed roll. For your stuff, also, you want to have like all stats, intelligence, vulnerable damage, damage to burning, or damage to distant, like something which fits your build. Probably vulnerable damage and damage to burning are the best ones here. For your amulet, you want to have, ideally, I guess the best amulet would be +3 defensive skills, +3 Hoarfrost. The mana cost reduction is extremely important, so you need to have the mana cost reduction here. And then depending on your build, you either have to get total armor, or you could get like a damage stat, like max intelligence or movement speed in this case is a damage stat for ASUS, right? You can also get Devouring Blaze, but the most important here is mana cost reductions, and if you don't want to have the defensive skills, you can change the Paragon a little bit, but I recommend to have the defensive skills on here. For your Tarasha ring, as already said, you want to have the highest resource generation roll here, because resource generation is the most important in this build. And then for your other ring, also you want to have crit chance, lucky hit chance, maximum life, and high resource generation roll as well. For Vampiric Powers, you want to have Ravenous to get the extra attack speed. Then you want to have Sanguine Embrace for the extra damage reduction and the extra crit chance. You want to have Domination for the extra damage to crowd controlled. And then you want to have the Accursed Touch and Prey on the Recombination for the vulnerable. Pretty solid, simple setup for Vampiric Powers. You can definitely switch out Domination for something else if you're like interested in that. But I don't really see like any other Vampiric Powers you could need. Other like, of course, if you want to play T-Balls, you would use Metamorphosis here, and then you would use T-Balls with Metamorphosis. But other than that, I think these Vampiric Powers are pretty much alright for this build. For the Paragon board, we go pretty offensive. Like, pretty much everything here is offensive, except for like some little armor rolls. And in our first board, we are not using Elementalist, like actually for the first time. So we're using Winter in our first board. It still gives us the 125% rare bonus to all the nodes we have here. So it gives us the extra non-physical damage and the extra Aures. But it also gives us up to 15% multiplicative damage modifier for our cold spells. Then we move over to the next board, that is going to be the Enchantment Master. We just pick up the little bit of non-physical damage here because we really need like all nodes we can get. Then we put in our Elementalist Glyph here. Again, it boosts the Aures and non-physical damage node here, and it gives us another 15% multiplier. Then moving over to the next board, that is going to be the Burning Instinct. We put our Tears of Blood Glyph here, and we take all the synergy here, like the damage to burning and damage reduction from burning, which also gets boosted by the Tears of Blood Glyph. And then we just pick up these armor nodes here. Then let's move over to the next board. That is going to be the Frigid Fate board. We picked the Frigid Fate node for our little bit of bonus damage here, and then we just picked like this little bit of damage reduction here. We cannot even afford to go like here. And we put in the control glyph for another 10 to 20% multiplier. Then moving over to the next board, we have the Ceaseless Conduit board. We just picked like the glyph socket here with our destruction glyph. This gives us a nice little critical strike chance damage. Critical strike damage, and also like a damage multiplier of up to 12%. Then moving over to the next board, that is going to be the Static Search board. This is probably like the little bit of a difference you will see to all other Blizzard builds. So first of all, we pick up the Stalagmite glyph here for like another 10% critical strike chance for Ice Spikes and a little bit of Ice Spike damage. So this is like a good multiplier. In general, it's not the greatest glyph. You can also go for Exploit. This is like kind of debatable, but I felt like I want to go the intelligence route here. And then we pick up the extra mana here. The damage to stun doesn't really matter at all, but we pick up the extra mana. This is just important so we can stay up on mana all the time. And yeah, we pick the Static Search node together with the Chain Lightning enchantment. This gives us like more mana regeneration. And then moving over to the last board, we just picked like the Icefall glyph here. This gives us 15 to 30% bonus damage to frozen enemies. And we pick up the extra cold damage nodes here. You can play this on Eternal Realm without major changes. So we lose a Cursed Touch and Prey on the Weak. But we still have the vulnerable from Static Search, and you might just be opting to switch in Frost Nova, for example, to get some additional vulnerable up and running. So you could get Frost Nova for either Lightning Spear or Ice Armor. Both will work just fine to get the vulnerable up and running. These nodes are just additional damage, so you don't need them. And Ravenous is additional attack speed. It is also not required. In this build, we can really not do anything about it. We just lose it. You can supplement 20% of it with the Heady Assault Elixir. If you play Andariels, you have like another 15%, and you have 15% on your gloves. So yeah, you're gonna lose out a little bit of attack speed, but nothing you can really do about that, unfortunately. For the Paragon changes, you would replace the Tears of Blood glyph with the Exploit glyph. So just put Exploit in here and balance out the dexterity. I don't know off the top of my head, but you can pretty much go through this board like without like losing too much. So you can pretty much remove all these nodes here. And then you're gonna have like, I would say it's like 10 to 15 extra nodes. So you probably wanna pick up this non-physical damage cluster up here and these non-physical damage nodes. And if you like, you can also like go towards like the extra resistances here. Also, you could go for the burning damage nodes here. Look, so these are all good options, and you don't really need to change anything else about the Paragon board if you want to go for Eternal. Alright, there you have it. That was my last build guide for Season 2. I'm gonna leave you a Tier 9 AoZ now, and I will be returning with Diablo 4 coverage like shortly before the beginning of Season 3, and until then I will actually make a live stream for like, you know, I'm starting Path of Exile once again. Like I have, the last time I played this game was like 5 years ago, so I will make a fresh start and I will post all my builds, and you can do kind of a play along if you want to like try something fresh and you're a little bit tired of the Diablo season. You know, maybe you just play along with me like on stream if you like that. So that's pretty much it for me and for this build guide. So thank you so much for watching, and if I don't see you like next time on the Path of Exile coverage, I will see you at the beginning of Season 3.